What's going on, everybody? Happy Monday evening. Hope everyone's had a good start to the week. The final week of the offseason without NFL football. Congratulations, everybody. We're nearly there. Kicking off a stream a little later than usual. I know I'm not usually live at this time, so I may be catching some folks off schedule or off guard a little bit. Apologies about that. But I wanted to start getting as many streams in prior to the start of kickoff as possible. And it sounds like my audio might be a little underwater. I thought I had fixed that issue, so apologies about that. Hopefully it's not too bad. But if it, hopefully it's not too bad. If it is, let me know, or if it's too much, let me know. I thought I had this sorted out. Apologies if it's sounding a little, if the audio sounded a little underwater. But the preseason is a wrap. Roster cuts, cut downs are underway ahead of the Tuesday deadline, tomorrow's deadline. Fantasy drafts are likely in full swing at this point. Most of them, I think, happening this weekend, later in the week at the latest, or at the earliest, excuse me. But the vast majority of drafts do take place this coming weekend with the preseason officially wrapped up. So this is an opportunity to just kind of go over the latest and also, once again, fire off another best ball draft. Again, I won't know my strategy until the draft actually kicks off. I won't know my draft position, therefore I don't know what my plan of attack can necessarily be until the room is full and the draft gets underway. So I will kick that off. Best ball is a little bit of a different strategy than just straight up redraft, but I can try to apply my thought process as like an overarching plan of attack, and also be sure to call out when to deviate, when what I'm doing for this particular draft might not be a similar strategy that you want to utilize for your redraft league. So I'll try to toe that line and help out in both ways. So this will be an underdog draft. They actually put a smaller tournament out today, the Mini Schnauzer. I guess it's the 8th variation of the Mini Schnauzer. Just a $3 entry. I believe it's 20 seconds per pick, so it should go quickly. One quarterback, half PPR scoring with 18 roster spots. If you're able to time it up and you would like to try to join me, there's probably about a 20 to 25 second delay or so from my streaming service to YouTube. So I will try to time it up on my side. When I say that I'm joining, I'll wait for a short while on my end. If anybody wants to try to join up with me and draft in this tournament. These tournaments also these rooms fill quite quickly, so it is tough to time these up, but we can certainly try. And of course, the drafts have to be available in your state or wherever you currently are physically located. Before we kick that off, we can get into news from around the NFL, what's going on, what the latest pieces of information are, and go from there as it affects the fantasy landscape. Of course, the big piece of news today was that CeeDee Lamb and the Dallas Cowboys, everybody, whether you're a Cowboys fan or a CeeDee Lamb owner in Dynasty or redraft, really, there are some redrafts that have certainly taken off at this point. Everybody in that group, in that bandwagon, can exhale. Dallas and their star wide receiver come to an agreement on a contract extension just in under Justin Jefferson's contract that he received with the Minnesota Vikings. So CeeDee becomes the second highest non-QB paid in NFL history. I think he has the largest signing bonus for a wide receiver in NFL history. So CeeDee got his bag. He got paid. All is well. I will say, CeeDee is a top 2 pick In full PPR, he's probably the 101 in a lot of leagues. In half PPR, he's the 102, maybe the 103. In standard scoring, maybe he's like the 105, 104. He's probably not even falling that low, even in standard scoring leagues. He is a slam dunk type top 5 pick, likely in standard, and he's a slam dunk top 2 or 3 pick in half and full PPR leagues. So we're splitting hairs when we sort out and try to figure out who we're drafting from those spots because they're all studs. They're all excellent players. What I will say, though, is that I wouldn't be surprised if CD, maybe by his expectations, by his high standards, gets off to a bit of a slower start. He hasn't been in camp. I know he's obviously got years of experience catching the ball from Dak Prescott, and he's excellent. He's the type of dude who can roll out of bed, show up, and put up, 7 catches for 125 yards and a score, something, crazy like that. That's ho-hum for CeeDee Lamb. I get that. He's hella talented. But I wouldn't be surprised if he got off to a slower-ish start by his standards. He hasn't been in camp. Getting those valuable reps, not just with Dak, but with the offense in general. Timing is all we ever hear is how critical. All we know about is how critical timing is on a play-per-play basis. So, he could be a little bit behind the 8 ball there. Still, though, if you have the 3rd or 4th pick or something along those lines in a half PPR league and he quote-unquote falls there, I mean, you take him, maybe you deal with a couple of early season lumps, but on the whole, you're likely getting a top 5 wide receiver for the season, and therefore there's not a whole lot of risk. There could be a little bit of a slow start out of the gate. Just a couple of, different news and notes as a result of cut down day. The Lions are releasing wide receiver Donovan Peoples-Jones. He will likely join another team somewhere, latch on for some wide receiver depth. The Broncos are expected to move on from Samaje Perine. That's, I guess, good news for not just Javonte Williams, but the likes of Jaleel McLaughlin and, the rookie Aldrick that I was almost for blanking on. Good news for those guys. More opportunities are now confirmed with the likelihood that Samaje Perine is done in Denver. Sticking with the Broncos, they're also expected to move on from wide receiver Tim Patrick. Looking at trade opportunities there. They'll release him if they can't find a partner in trade. I guess they feel confident about their their young wide receiver talent. Troy Franklin, Marvin Mims, behind Cortland Sutton. They have a couple of other younger guys there as well. They must feel good about those guys, and therefore they feel good about moving on from Tim Patrick, who's had some tough injury luck in his career in Denver. I would think he latches on somewhere as wide receiver depth, in maybe a thinner wide receiver room. But I guess Denver feels good about their young talent at receiver, so they have decided to kind of move on from Tim Patrick. These are all guys that could be drafted at the end of best ball leagues, but they're not going to get drafted in 10 and 12 team leagues. Neither is Malik Willis, not even in a 12 or 14 team super flex, but he's moving on to the Green Bay Packers. Tennessee gets a 7th round pick from Green Bay in the deal. He'll be now, but instead of being behind Will Levis and Mason Rudolph, now he's behind Jordan Love and Sean Clifford and Michael Pratt is the rookie that they have on their currently on the roster. So I guess Malik is maybe the QB4. So there's no upside there. The big news is what we all kind of already knew. Nick Chubb will start the regular season on the PUP list, so he will miss at least the first 4 games of the season. This is hardly a surprise. There was no way that Nick Chubb was going to be ready to start the season, given the timeline that was being shared over the course of the offseason. It was a brutal knee injury he suffered. It was early in the season last year. It was week 2, but that doesn't matter. It was a gruesome injury. If you don't remember it, I'm sure you do. His timeline to return was always going to be a longer one, not a shorter one. So missing the first 4 games of the season, I don't know that we're going to get a fully right Nick Chubb at any point this season. I think Jerome Ford is a his cost is going to climb now, even though he should have been going higher in drafts most likely already at this point. He's around an 11th round pick or so, at least in best ball. That's going to climb, especially in redraft when where running backs are so much more valuable. I mean, he figures to be the guy for at least the first month, and there's a non-zero chance that Jerome Ford is the Browns starter at running back for the entire season. So kudos if you were getting into drafts early this offseason and drafting Jerome Ford. His arrow's pointing up. Nick Chubb's arrow has not been pointing up for a while. The fact that he's on the PUP list his arrow's gonna now trend down for a lot more people. I had been cautioning against Chubb over the course of this offseason, so I don't really have that many shares, if any, of him. You're going to want to avoid that. At this point, you're going to want to avoid that. You're going to want to fade at all costs. I don't think Nick Chubb falls far enough for me to feel good about drafting him in 2024. And it could just be, I mean, you could try to buy low in Dynasty, I guess, but I don't even know what I would offer. Like a late third-round pick, maybe. And even then, it could be a sunken cost. It's a shame. Hopefully he bounces back, and hopefully he'll whether it's later this season or sometime next season, is able to dish out some type of vintage Nick Chubb performance, but I wouldn't necessarily be banking on it. I guess that's pretty much it. The Jahan Dotson trade also happened over the weekend. I haven't been on since that trade went down. I mean, Dotson's stock goes down. It appears that it's Diami Brown and Olamide Zaccheaus are the short-term winners here. By all accounts, Luke McCaffrey, he's the trendy rookie that everybody wants to believe in. The reports are he hasn't necessarily separated himself, so his stock is likely down. If you want to buy into the Luke McCaffrey hype, he's as cheap as he's ever going to be this offseason anyway. Whatever you want to think about guys like Zaccheaus and Diami, it sounds like they're going to get first crack at starting opportunities outside of Terry McLaurin. I think this team's just going to run the ball a lot. They're going to run the ball a lot. That's what Washington is. I would expect a lot of runs from Brian Robinson, RPOs with Jaden Daniels. Eckler will mix in on the ground. I think they're going to run the ball a ton. Utilizing, Daniels' dual threat capabilities. Okay, I think that's it for the most part. As far as latest news and notes. I was going to go over some changes coming to the channel over the course of this coming season, but admittedly, my audio is a little choppy, and I'm not really sure why. So I'm just going to get to this draft, this best ball draft, and I'll try to have the audio sorted out for tomorrow's stream, and I'll get into more details about that on Tuesday. I apologize for the choppy sounding audio. I got to go back and see what I can do to fix it. So I'm just going to get this draft started for anybody who cares to stick around and watch a draft take place. And then I'll probably call it. I wanted to go for as long as I felt comfortable going tonight, but this audio issue is not super pleasant. So I'm just going to kick the draft off. I'm going to do that now, and I will get to channel updates tomorrow for the Tuesday stream, which will be at a more normal time. It'll be at 6 p.m. East. That's when I typically go live. And I'll go through some more stuff in more detail then when I have a chance to figure out my audio issues. So with that, let's kick off this draft. I'm going to make myself a little smaller so you guys can see more. There we go. A little bit more centered. If anybody has any questions, of course, if you again, if you don't care about the audio issues, if anybody has any questions they want to talk about, with their draft is upcoming, what pick you have, you're not sure what you want to do, or just a general AMA question about fantasy, just drop it in the chat, and I'm happy to get to it. But we'll save the bigger, heavy hitting stuff for tomorrow, for Tuesday. Oh, I have the third pick. Okay, so this is pretty straightforward. I take my shots on Tyreek Hill and Jamar Chase in this area. I think in my last draft I took Tyreek, so maybe I take Chase. It's kind of hard to move off of Tyreek Hill from the 103 though, especially considering Chase did return to practice, which is good, but he missed a couple of practices. So I guess I'll just, splitting hairs, I guess I'll just take Tyreek. Jefferson over Chase is certainly an interesting move given the quarterback situation and the overall situation in Minnesota. Pretty chalky to start. Let's see. People have warmed up again to Gibbs being a first-round pick. So if you did need drafts, shortly after the hamstring scare, and you were able to get him, I got him like 16th round or somewhere around, or 16th overall, in a couple of drafts. So like watching him fall to the middle of the second round and scooping him up and seeing him back to being a low-end first-round pick again is a pretty good feeling. I'm telling you, man, Debo's ADP has gone way up, and I get it, but Brandon Ayuk is still a 49er. I know that he's quote-unquote one call away from getting traded, but he's still a 49er. I'll take Ayuk at his depreciated cost. Why did Puka just fall to the 205? Why? That's the latest I've seen Puka go this year by far. How did Puka end up falling to the 205? I'm up in one pick. There goes Cup. Man, I don't really love Olave at his cost. I really don't. I am not a fan of Olave at his cost. I'm gonna grab Devontae Adams, which is another situation I'm not crazy about. But Adams is at least the better player. I know he's older still, but He's older than Olave by a decent amount, but he's a borderline. I don't even know if he's borderline. He's a future Hall of Famer, or he's not too far away from that. See, now I'll take Ayuk. I like grabbing Ayuk in the third round while he is still a 49er. I will take that. I like a lot of these wide receivers here. I'm happy to end up in this area, where you have the 5th or 6th overall pick. That way you can end up with like a Breece Hall or Bijan Robinson and get like any one of Ayuk or Mike Evans or Devontae Smith or DJ Moore. Like, take your pick. I'm happy to end up with any of them. I like that spot. I guess to that, maybe I like the 106 or 107 a little bit more because then I can have my pick of the litter of those wide receivers. Like, I understand the hype on Malik Neighbors, but his ADP has skyrocketed. Again, if you're just joining or if you happen to catch this stream late, I'm having some weird audio issues. I sound like I'm underwater. I apologize. I was going to get a little more into like channel specifics for this year and what to expect. I have gone over some of those details in the most recent other streams that are available on the channel where I didn't have audio issues. So I'll get into that more tomorrow. Tuesday stream, 6 p.m. Eastern. I will be available at a more normal time. I just decided to just kick off this draft, and I'll walk through it, walk through my thoughts and strategy as it unfolds. But that'll probably be it after this evening. I need to get back and figure out what's going on with my audio, so apologies for that. Let's see. What's happened? Nothing too out of the ordinary. Mike Evans falling to 31 is a crime. If you end up with Mike Evans in the back half of the third round, I don't care who else is available. Take it and run. Take Mike Evans and run, because at that point you stole something. 6 picks away for me. So I'm in this area. I have 3 wide receivers, which is fine. I can still get an option as an RB1, or a borderline RB1 in a Josh Jacobs, a Rachaad White, a Ken Walker, a Joe Mixon. There's decent options here. And none of these guys that I drafted at wide receiver they don't have a quarterback drafted this high, so I'll be passing on the quarterbacks as long as there's no outrageous slides. But definitely happy to end up with yet another wide receiver here. You start 3 wide receivers in this format, and without any in-season roster management, you want strong options to fill all 3 of those spots. You don't want to have to patchwork that together. Oh, man, the wide receivers are getting absolutely scooped up. Well, I don't want to reach down too far. Although I do like George Pickens here if I can get him, and I can. Again, this team, I would really hate this team if I end up with, I'm gonna take Pickens here, just load up at wide receiver, be super strong there. But I will absolutely hate this entry if Brandon Ayuk gets traded to the Pittsburgh Steelers, because then they're cannibalizing one another. My ceiling doesn't get maximized. And I lose. In all likelihood, I don't win. So I'm rooting against any type of trade with this particular team. I will take any one of Lamar or Josh Jacobs or Terry McLaurin here, and I'm happy to end up with any of them. Again, if you're just joining, thanks for coming in. I'm having some weird audio issues. Xavier Worthy, that guy must have just taken Mahomes. Do I just go Lamar? I don't have a ton of Lamar shares. Let's get a little weird at quarterback. For those just coming in, or if anybody catching this late, I apologize. I am having some audio issues. I sound like I'm underwater right now. Not sure what happened. I went through a software update earlier and thought I was all good, but the audio sounds funky. So I just decided to kick this draft off. I'll likely wrap it after that, and I will go for as long as I need to, or as folks are around tomorrow, Tuesday, 6 p.m. Eastern. Obviously, assuming that I have these audio issues sorted out. So apologies for that. Appreciate anybody who thanks enough to stick around. If you have any questions to ask, or you want to just see how a best ball unfolds, happy to talk shop. But apologies with the audio. I'm not sure. I'm not sure what's going on with the audio. So squad so far is Tyreek Hill, Devontae Adams, Brandon Ayuk, George Pickens, and then Lamar Jackson. I don't necessarily advise going this far 0 RB in your redraft league, but I think it's an okay bet to roll the dice on in best ball, where it's so crucial to have a lot of strong options at wide receiver each week, because you have to start 3, and there's a chance you could start 4 any given week with the flex. It's good to be strong at wide receiver when you can't play matchups, whereas running backs, their value is down this year. It's easier to find ones in the middle rounds and even middle to late rounds, even the double-digit rounds, 9th, 10th, around where you're 95, 100, 110 picks into a draft. You can find interesting options that will, by all projections, be a factor, be a part of their backfield, and therefore that's where the value is at running back this year. It allows you to, attack wide receiver in these best ball drafts. I don't necessarily advise for this in your redraft league, but if you play your cards right, it could still work out. I always get a little too worried about doing that in redraft, though. I always find, within the first 2 picks, I'm usually, maybe not the first 2, but definitely the first 3. I'm finding a way to grab a running back. 4 picks away. I would prefer. I'm not holding my breath for Joe Mixon, but if I can get Joe Mixon as an RB1 at 70 picks in, I'm happy to have that be the case. Now there's two people ahead of me who also haven't drafted a running back, so this might be where they grab them. But yeah, there goes Mixon. I mean, if I end up, I will roll the dice. I will roll the dice. I will roll the dice on Kyle Pitts if he doesn't take him here. And he may auto him. He didn't. This is an interesting team. I don't have a lot of Kyle Pitts shares, but I'm gonna play this game. Let's get a little freaky. 9 picks after his ADP. It's like it's put up or shut up time for Kyle Pitts. I'll roll those dice. I'll take that shot. I can continue to wait on quarterback. I really need either David Montgomery or James Conner here, and I may have just gotten frozen out. If this guy takes him, he didn't. All right, I will take my first running back, which is James Conner. 75 picks into a draft. I don't hate that one bit. Now, that's a veteran. That's a veteran guy. I don't often suggest whole backfields in best ball, maximize your ceiling, but I could take Trey Benson just to protect that. No matter what, I will have the Cardinals RB1, regardless of what happens. I could go that route. A lot of receivers are going off the board now because the folks who didn't grab receivers prior, now they're starting to, you know, they're playing some of these guys are playing a little bit of catch up, or some guys are just continuing to add to a big haul. Either way, 12 picks away. Like, there's still some interesting running back names that I have available to me. So I might be scratching and clawing a little bit at running back with this group, but as long as Brandon Ayuk doesn't get traded to the Steelers and messes up my investment not only in him but in George Pickens, if all things stay the same, I have some stud options at wide receiver. I grabbed an anchor at quarterback in Lamar, and I got a value at tight end when Kyle Pitts fell 9 spots below his ADP. And I'm rolling the dice on a guy with all the upside, hasn't delivered yet, but finally has a good quarterback. I could be strong in other areas. Man, everybody in this league went 0 RB. Except for this person. Like, look at some of these teams. I only have 1 running back. The two folks ahead of me have 1 and 0 running backs respectively. The guy on the clock right now has 2. The person right after me has 0. So like the two folks flanking me in the draft have 0 combined running backs, and the person at a couple picks ahead of me has 1. A lot of folks went 0 RB in this draft. Don't expect, given that, I do not expect Jaylen Warren to be available to me here. But I would take a discount on, say, a DeAndre Hopkins. I would also be okay with Courtland Sutton if I have to go with wide receiver, because I'm not reaching all the way down. I like some of these names down here, but I'm not going all the way out of my way to grab them that early. I'm on the clock. Holy crap. Apologies. I didn't think that Jaylen Warren would fall to me, but here we are. I will take that. I am happy to end up with that. He said his hamstring is feeling fine. Ah, crap. I have 2 Steelers now. This could be a not good offense, but I do think Jaylen Warren is a good player, regardless of the situation. Said he'll play week 1. The hamstring must be feeling better. It's a risk in best ball when you cannot manage your roster, and therefore you're going into the season with an RB2 with a hamstring problem, with a soft tissue problem. But his cost is down. The concern seems to be a little more minimal than it was previously. I'll roll those dice. I'm not feeling. I like Jaden Daniels, but I don't want to grab a second quarterback this high. So I'll take this dude as a swing for the fences and Chase Brown. I'll take that guy. I don't know if he is the guy to own in this backfield or if Zach Moss is the guy to own in this backfield. I think both of them will have some standalone value over the course of the season. It's going to be redraft. It's fine to sit and wait on those guys, but you're going to have to wait for your opportune moment to start those guys, i.e. one of them is out. So if you have the other, plug and play. Whereas in best ball, you don't really have to predict when one of them will go off or when one of them will do something. So the risk is minimized by still investing in these backfields. Because you don't have to predict when you will need to rely on them. But they'll be in your lineup when they have good weeks. Michael Wilson at 103. Some people do interesting stuff, man. I see this person is, I mean, hey, it could work, but this person's building the Cardinals offense without having Kyler Murray. Somebody else drafted Kyler Murray. Drafting Marvin Harrison in the second round, fine. Drafting Michael Wilson 40 picks above his ADP without having Kyler Murray to complete the stack is not a strategy that I can personally vouch for. I'm 9 picks away. This would be an interesting guy to go ahead and grab. I just got done talking about how I'm very, it's hard to feel good about what Nick Chubb might bring to the table in 2024. I mean, this dude is Jerome Ford, 120 picks available to a draft. And with today's news, it's possible that in the next 7 picks, he just flat out gets drafted. But that's going to be hard to pass up if he's there. Especially if Javonte is gone, Zach Moss is gone, there goes Moss. If Javonte is gone, if Devin Singletary is gone, I am more than happy to end up with a guy like Jerome Ford. Of course, I still have these 2 folks ahead of me, these 2 guys ahead of me who have one combined running back drafted between the 2 of them. So, at some point, those dominoes are going to fall. This Greg Dortch, this is a Cardinals fan. This is just a Cardinals fan and Trey McBride. But you don't have Kyler Murray. You don't have Kyler Murray. What are you doing? Who am I to judge what somebody chooses to do? There goes Devin Singletary. I'm taking Jerome Ford now. I'm taking Jerome Ford, and I'm taking him now. I am not messing around. He's going to be the starter for the first month of the season, if not longer. Jerome Ford is starting running back for at least the first month of the season, is available 120 picks into the draft. That's an auto. That's an auto. And now we're seeing a random run of running backs taken just before that, which will leave me a wide receiver that I'm happy to end up with between Dontavion Wicks and Tyler Lockett. Man, I could also go Brock Purdy and complete the Brandon Ayuk stack. Yeah, okay, I'll do that. I'll do that instead. If this, then that, right? If you draft a wide receiver, stack him with his quarterback. Yep. I am just going to – hopefully Brandon Ayuk does not get traded. We need Brandon Ayuk to stay in San Francisco for this $3 mini Schnauzer underdog entry. For all that is good in the world, I'm putting it into the universe. I have the Purdy to Ayuk stack at a discount. I have George Pickens, so I don't want those 2 to end up on the same team and cannibalize each other. I need this team to. I need the folks on this team to stay on the teams that they currently are on, and I'll be good. Again, for anybody just joining, I'll continue to share this over the course of the rest of the stream. I am having some audio issues. I don't know why I sound like I'm underwater. I apologize. I will get more into the nitty-gritty as far as the stream goes tomorrow, Tuesday, 6 p.m. Eastern. You can catch me then, ideally, as long as I have these issues sorted out. So I'm just getting through this draft. I don't see any questions in the chat. I'm happy to take them if you prefer to stick around and ask one, but I understand that this audio issue is a little frustrating. I will hopefully have it sorted out tomorrow, and we will go in. We will get into it. I will do another draft. We can talk shop, talk strategy, with a lot of folks having their redraft draft either sometime this week, later this week, this weekend. We'll get into all of that. certainly tomorrow, 6 p. East. Apologies for the audio issues, everybody. So I'm 6 picks away. Plenty of wide receivers that I could potentially take a shot on here as a wide receiver 5. Any of these guys will do. But they need to get to me first. Eight wide receivers already for this person. Why so many wide receivers? Nine wide receivers now. Why so many wide receivers? I didn't really want Mitchell. That's like not the guy I wanted. But if I've learned anything from best ball, it's to sometimes occasionally draft guys that you don't even want because you never know what could happen. So as a wide receiver 5, I will take the rookie. What I could do is follow that up and just draft Josh Downs, and then whoever is on the, if Downs is able to overcome his injury that he suffered, the high ankle sprain that he suffered, if he's able to overcome that, then I have just Mitchell and Downs and, whoever over the course of the season. Yeah, I'll do that. I'll stack those guys up. That's not really, it's not really a stack. It's just kind of like a, as my wide receiver 5 and wide receiver 6, I have like if this guy has a good week, then that's my, flex play, or maybe wide receiver 3. If Downs is the guy one week, then he's the dude who steps in over Mitchell. It's like they should alternate their weeks. I do like Downs. Obviously, the high ankle sprain going into the season isn't a great start, but it happened now. It happened early. It happened in the offseason, so there's plenty of time for him to still contribute this year. But obviously not a great start with the high ankle sprain. But 150 picks into a draft, I don't mind that roll of the dice. I just want to see who this person is who has 9 wide receivers and 1 running back drafted. Took Tua like 100 picks before his ADP, so I never had a chance to stack him up with Tyreek, but that's okay. A lot of good wide receivers. Let's see. 9 picks away. I'm in this range. I mean, I guess I could take Bateman because I have Lamar. I could take Pearsall because I have Purdy. He will practice today. Either one of those guys are options as stacks since I have both Lamar and Brock Purdy. Not crazy about either one, but we're 166 picks into a draft at this point. It's anybody's guess. Yeah, Dotson at 160. Dotson's got to be like off the board at this point. He's now buried behind A.J. Brown and Devontae Smith and Saquon Barkley and some weeks Dallas Goedert. Let's see. Where am I at here? I would take Bateman. I would take Pearsall. There goes Pearsall. I would take Bateman here since I have Lamar Jackson. let me end up with Bateman. This guy knows he can draft running backs, right? All right, so I don't know what Rashad Bateman has, to give on the field at this point, but I have Lamar, so screw it. Let's stack it up, and if I can get, I don't mind ending up with Ty Conklin here, but I could also take Isaiah Likely, and I probably should because again I have Lamar Jackson, so stack it up. Yeah, I should. I have to. I have no choice. I have Lamar. Grab Isaiah Likely. He can be my tight end too behind Kyle Pitts. We keep it moving. So I see a question about a keeper league. You have the first pick, which is Saquon and Garrett Wilson. If you start 3 wide receivers, the move is Garrett Wilson. If you start 2 wide receivers, then you can argue Saquon, since you already have Chase, and then that way that wide receiver 2 is a little easier to fill. But if you start 3 wide receivers, then Garrett Wilson. It depends on how many starting wide receiver spots you have in your league. So if you start 2 receivers, Saquon. If you start 3 receivers, Garrett Wilson. That's where I would go. Yeah, that's where I would go. Let's see. We got a couple more picks to go here. And if anybody else has any other questions and you're willing to deal with the crappy audio experience, again, I will hopefully have this fixed ahead of tomorrow's stream. But happy to take any questions as I wrap up this draft. We're in the final 3 rounds now. But yeah, happy to take any other questions. If you start, generally speaking, if you're between a running back and a wide receiver, it comes down to how many starting receiver spots your league has. You start 3 receivers, draft Garrett Wilson. You start 2 receivers and 2 running backs, draft Saquon Barkley. Where am I at? I have 7 wide receivers. I have 4 running backs. I don't mind like a Jordan Mason if he can fall to me here. Man, Marshawn Lloyd, he really fell off. Probably because he hasn't been practicing due to a hamstring injury. His ADP was in like the 140s just a couple of weeks ago. This dude is making some decisions. 10 wide receivers and 1 running back until you drafted Marshawn Lloyd. Interesting decision. Let me get Jordan Mason here. Yes! All right. It's not a stack, but I do have Brock Purdy, so I've got some, pieces of the San Francisco pie. Jordan Mason had a strong yards per carry clip last year. 5.5, somewhere around. Obviously, it was like with a minimum of 70 touches or 75 carries on the season, so it's not a big sample size. But in the opportunities that Jordan Mason got, he was effective with them. So, sure, as a random RB5, that might give you a little something here and there, a smattering of games over the course of the season. I'll take that. Let me get this dude. Let me get Marvin Mims. Denver's moving on from Tim Patrick. I think that's a vote of confidence for their young wide receivers. While that could mean Troy Franklin, Marvin Mims is the second-year player with at least a season of NFL experience under his belt now. I will take the shot on the speedster. I don't know if Bo Nix is the guy to unlock Marvin Mims, but 195 picks into a draft, I'm willing to see what happens. What I do think is that Marvin Mims is good. I think Marvin Mims is good. Don't forget that. So I only have one pick left, actually, I believe. Yeah, the 18th round. We're coming up on the end here. I have two quarterbacks, so a third one wouldn't be terrible. I have 8 wide receivers, so I don't need one. I don't need another one of those. I could end up with a depth of running back. Let's see who's available here. I like Roshan. I like Kendre Miller, but I like Kendre Miller in Dynasty, not in redraft this year. Cam Akers is like certainly popping up a little. He's making some waves with the Texans. Trey Sermon should be the backup, I believe, for Jonathan Taylor. My guy Justice Hill is getting drafted much earlier than he was earlier in the season. I've been a big proponent of Justice Hill at the end of drafts. Draft Justice Hill with your last pick. That's some solid RB depth. I've been saying it for months. It looks like his ADP has climbed. There's still time to get him as your last pick in your redraft league. I like him as the RB2 in Baltimore behind Derrick Henry. I think he's gonna smash his career high in opportunities this year. Are there any like depth wide receivers that I'm like sneaky interested in? Four picks away. No, I don't think so. Well, I mean, I guess Tyler Boyd is the sneaky wide receiver that I kind of like this far down, but I don't know that I should. I know who I'm taking. I'm taking the Broncos rookie. They seem to really like him. Samaje Perine is moving on. Yeah, I'm gonna roll the dice. Thin depth at quarterback, thin depth at tight end. I'm just gonna root for the ceiling in those spots and just load up at running back and wide receiver. And they seem to really like this guy. And it's possible he's involved sooner rather than later. And there's my draft. So again, I can go over this briefly before the end of the stream. Again, one more time, for anybody coming in, appreciate you guys coming and hanging out, but my audio is pretty poor right now, so I apologize. I need to go back and fix that. So I can briefly go over the team that I drafted, but I'm going to save some of the heavy stuff for tomorrow's stream, 6 p.m. Eastern, assuming I get some of the tech issues sorted out. If you have any questions before I shut down, I'm happy to get to them. I saw one already, and I made sure to answer that, so hopefully you heard the answer for that. But basically, again, Garrett Wilson if you start 3 wide receivers, Saquon Barkley if you start 2 wide receivers. Just depends on positional value based on your starting lineup. If anybody has any other questions before the end of this, I'm happy to take them. But I'm planning to come back with a much better listening, viewing experience tomorrow, Tuesday, 6 p.m. Eastern. So from the 3 spot, started out the gate strong at wide receiver, Tyreek Hill, Devontae Adams, Brandon Ayuk, George Pickens, and then I waited 100 picks to take another wide receiver. So I decided, even though I started strong as far as drafting wide receiver, I decided to draft 8 instead of 7 because after the first 4 picks, I didn't take another wide receiver until almost 100 spots later. So I grabbed some depth options. Bateman is a stack with Lamar Jackson. Just a couple of dart throws to see what happens, and now I see that they're all bye week is week 14. So I'm going to need my horses week 14. At 5th and 6th picks, I stayed kind of, as it turns out, I ended up going pretty much 0 RB or modified 0 RB, grabbing Lamar, 51st overall, and then Kyle Pitts in the 6th round. He fell 9 spots below his ADP. I don't have a ton of shares of Kyle Pitts. Willing to roll the dice here and there. Great situation. First time he's had a real quarterback since Matt Ryan's last year in Atlanta when he did clear 1,000 yards receiving. So let's see if he can do it again when he's even cheaper than he was as a rookie. And then I hit running back pretty hard in the middle rounds. James Conner, 75 picks in. Jalen Warren, Chase Brown, top 100 picks within the 9th and 10th round. Jerome Ford is still available, 110, 115 picks into a draft. Nick Chubb is going on the PUP list to start the season. He's going to miss at least the first 4 games. I don't have a ton of confidence that we're going to see a vintage Nick Chubb, or even, I don't even know if we're going to get like 65% of Nick Chubb this year as he rehabs from that brutal knee injury he suffered last year. I hope, for Nick Chubb's sake, I would love to be wrong. The timeline is murky as far as his return. I don't feel great about it. Give me Jerome Ford, 115 picks into a draft. He will be the starter for at least the first month. Got a chance to get off to a strong start. There's no risk and only upside with Jerome Ford's ADP still being this low. And then Jordan Mason, Audric, and then Audric, is it I should know the guy's how to pronounce his last name, but the Denver Broncos really like him, clearly enough to move on from Samaje Perine. Took a shot on him with my last pick. So running back definitely is like scraped together, but there's some upside with these players, specifically guys in the better offenses like Chase Brown and Jordan Mason. Let's see what happens. So that's my squad. I don't hate it. Obviously, I need everything to go right for me at quarterback and tight end because I only drafted 2 guys at quarterback and 2 guys at tight end. Can I move this over? Yeah. There's the team. Not bad. Not bad. Maybe not my absolute favorite team that I've put together, but not bad. Strong at wide receiver with enough depth. Top heavy at quarterback with Lamar. Got Purdy at a discount with the Ayuk stack. Thin at tight end. Need Pitts to work out. We'll see. Likely as a decent backup and a stack with Lamar Jackson. Running back is kind of strung together from the middle rounds. We'll see what happens. I think that's going to do it for me tonight, guys, unless anybody has any last-minute questions. And, of course, you can always ask them in a form of a comment on this stream or any stream on the channel or any video on the channel, really. I'm disappointed with my audio issues right now, so I'm going to shut it down and see if I can figure out what's going on and hopefully be back up full swing tomorrow, 6 p.m. Eastern. Come hang out. We will do another live AMA. I will talk a little bit more shop on the channel and what's planned for this coming season, but I don't want to bore you guys with that right now because I sound like I'm underwater, and that's not a pleasant experience for anybody. So appreciate anybody who stuck around for even more than a couple of minutes tonight. Again, I apologize for the audio issues. Hopefully we'll have this fixed for tomorrow. I'll go for as long as you guys would like to. Any questions you have, happy to answer them. And ideally the experience will be a little bit better then. So thank you guys again. Appreciate it. Have a good Monday evening.